Nasty today, guys. This is a game that I didn't think Roma were truly going to get blown out of the water, which is how else should we phrase the first half? Is there a more diplomatic way? Is there something we should say about, oh, well, they tried? I don't think so. I think that the first half, if we're going to be totally honest, was dismal. I think when you have 62,000 fans in front of you, you're home, and you play against your opponent like you got it already won, I think that's a poor mentality. I think the fact that the Stadio Olimpico was so hyped up for this one, how you go out there and you're not absolutely locking down the match, you're taking it to them. To me, it's unacceptable. I don't care if Dybala's not there, bro. I don't. If Lorenzo Pellegrini is not starting, whatever. There's 23 other guys on the roster. Like, they have to show up. They have to prove themselves. You can't be reliant on your one or two guys. I don't think that's fair in the least bit. For the entire team, I think that at this moment, they need to look at themselves and figure this out tactically. And also, just maybe how they prepare the game as well. Aside from your manager, you're still professional. I know that there's a lot of frustration with Mourinho right now. Some of it's deserved, some of it is down to having a keeper who's past it, a keeper who should be probably would probably have a tough time even in the bottom half of Serie A at this point. And I'm reading a lot of comments. I know there's a lot of sentiments. I know you're probably really thoroughly annoyed and upset right now, but let's talk about it. Let's go into it. And the first comment I see, time for Conte. Is it time for a new manager? Jose Mourinho was given a 3-year contract. The man deserves just 3 years. We've already gotten to a Conference League final, won that. Europa League final, should have been won. And then this third year wasn't even on the bench for the first two. Wasn't there, right? This game gets out of hand. Why? Because of another foul, another individual error, which Mourinho cannot go on the pitch and save himself. I'm not saying Mourinho has nothing to do with it. I'm not saying, oh, it's all the players' fault. There's always a division when it comes to that, because if it wasn't completely Mourinho's fault, then why is the ball there, right? If it's totally not his fault, then there has to be that 1% where you say, okay, yes, but the tactic, let Milan take it to them. Let Milan move further up the pitch. Allow them to put that ball into dangerous positions. It concerns me, for sure. Have Roma played this way for the past 2+ seasons? Yeah. Have they gotten results that way? Sure. And Young Dash, who's going to be on the channel sooner than later, says Conte will play the same type of football. I do not want. I don't think I want Antonio Conte. I don't want somebody who's going to come in and blab and complain for nothing. Joe says Conte doesn't play 40-yard long passes for 90 minutes. Bad season starts happening. The Freakins have to acknowledge that the beginning of this project has been a failure and restart. Should there be a restart right now? Tactically, maybe. Maybe Mourinho should consider the four-man back line. Perhaps the defensive midfield situation was never truly solved, and that is something which has to be addressed. So to start this off, guys keep writing in comments and all of that. I think we should take a look at the starting formations and other stuff like, the regular stuff. So let's look at the stats. I actually missed the first half, and I would like to hear from you. I was listening on the radio. They were just so disappointed. The commentators on Rete Sport were saying how Roma were walking, were not even in the match, how they felt bad for the fans. So tell me, for those of you who watched it carefully, what was that first half like? Because I'm glad I didn't get to see it, to be honest with you. Okay, here we go. As this loads up, we can see the scoreline. Yes, of course. And Giroud starts this match off with a penalty after Rui Patricio makes that foul. And look what he's become. He's made an achievement at Roma's home ground. The first player to score 4 goals in the first 3 rounds of a single Serie A season for Milan since Shevchenko. Putting Shevchenko and Giroud in the same sentence is something I wish I never had to do, but here we are. He's also scored in 6 straight appearances, first time in his for the second time in his career, and he did that at Arsenal as well. Forgot that Giroud has been around the block, truly. Milan have now won their first 3 matches of the season for the third time, the last 4 Serie A. So maybe it is a little bit too preemptive to say that Milan are going to go and win the Scudetto. But on my Twitter comments, somebody made a really good comment, and this has to do with the squad. Roma go in without their best player, without their captain. Meanwhile, Milan actually started with a really strong lineup and what we consider 4 world-class players up top. We can see Giroud. Yes, of course, we know what he did. We've got Pulisic there on the right wing. He did fine. And Leao, who scores right now goal of the season. Can we all agree that was goal of the season? The XG on that must have been virtually nil. Yet he converts it. I don't know if I've seen a goal like that, guys. If you've ever come across seeing that live, nah, that was crazy. Like, get up and applaud Leao for that, even if you're disappointed. Milan did a bit of a hack job, and Tomori gets the red there, lost his cheek. There could have been a few more bookies on top of that, but um, that comment though, that's that for a second. 4 world-class players up top, and I agree with it. Reinders, regardless of if he's a big star or not, does look to be of that mold. Teo Hernandez, yeah, world class for sure. There's no denying that. Calabria does his job, and Magnan, we could say, is probably the best keeper in the league. If you agree with that, or if you disagree with that, you can let me know. And then it's the substitutes who really tried to get something going for Roma in the second half. Pellegrini comes on. Awar looks like he's slightly hurt. Spinazzola comes on and gets his goal. Actually worked really well. He could have even gotten 2. Bove steps in Pagano, which I was happy about. And Lukaku, the man of the hour. We saw the big celebration. Some people are actually, annoyed with that, given the way that Roma played. So Lukaku comes on, uses that muscle of his. He's very strong. I'll be honest with you. Lukaku's a player I've seen. Did I watch him like a fanboy? No. But what I see now is a player who he is significantly stronger than Belotti. He is able to go up against center backs and outside backs and push them and make his own space and perhaps even lay it off for teammates, right, if he can't get the shot off. So I wasn't super excited about Lukaku at first, but now I think I'm really grateful that he's with the team. And I'm not being like, what's the word? Not sarcastic, like super sarcastic. Like I wasn't, I didn't see it in the same mold as maybe like the signing of Dybala, which I was elated. I was super pumped Dybala came. Lukaku signed. He had his problems with Juventus, with Inter, and I was like, let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm very grateful for Lukaku right now. But here we could check out Milan's bench. Okafor, Kalulu, Chukwueze, Pobega. They've got depth. They're stronger down the line. Musa did not play, who I really rate. And you look at Roma's bench, and it's not the worst. I wouldn't say that. And it brings me back to my point of like, regardless of who your starting lineup is, to go out and play that way against Milan in the first half is just gut-wrenching, kind of, And we do see Lukaku run back and gets the applause of the fans. And he makes a foul. Actually, he got the ball first. It shouldn't have been called a foul. But it's that energy that you got to bring. Even if you run out of position for a split second, you go and show your teammates, like, guys, let's go. Yo, let's go. Come on. Like, let's get into it. And I think that's the type of attitude. If you play football, you've been on a team, you know exactly what I'm talking about, yeah? So you got to be somebody who leads by example. And that's what I really appreciated from Lukaku today. Let's look at some stats real quick. Roma led shots as Milan went down a man for just over a half hour. On target, only 2. Milan, 4. So, the possession's never going to be in Roma's favor as long as Mourinho is coach. And a bunch of passes. Actually, Roma, not as many passes as I would have thought. And now we look at the standings, and this is the second game of the round, of round 3. And Roma and Lazio are in the relegation spots. I'm going to say this. I am going to save that picture because I feel like it's going to come in handy. I'm not sure in what context, but yeah, I'm going to screenshot that, and there we go. But let's look at some comments, guys. I know you've been helping me out here, and I think it's time to take a look at everything. So I'm going to stop the screen for a hot second while we get to them. We've got over 20 comments to get through, and let's analyze, guys. Okay. Leo says, Leo's tired of Mourinho. He says he needs to take responsibility. He says Mourinho has to stop complaining about players or the refs. It's his tactics. Okay. 18th place. Do we agree with Leo? Dashi says he loves Jose and his character, but now he's like a stubborn old man, refusing to change his ways at this point. Okay. And Leo agrees. Chris says the coach's fault. Do we agree with that? Sorry, if you're getting feedback, I realize I'm looking at I have my Chromebook down here, which is how I'm doing this. So if you got some feedback, sorry. Martoshi is here. Yeah, he's ticked off. Poor tactics, easy goals conceded. Second highest paid manager in the league. Maybe Roma should have made at one point a big offer for Ancelotti. I love Ancelotti. You know what though? I don't know that in Roma's situation, Ancelotti is the ideal manager because Ancelotti is not so much a tactician as he is like a philosopher of the game. Pushes you out there, lets you play your way. He's not overcomplicated when it comes to tactics. He trusts the quality of his players. And to be fair, when Ancelotti has had great players, he's done a great job. When he's had decent players, he's only done a decent job. I'm not saying Ancelotti's not a great manager. I think that there's something to be said for him being more of a player's manager, a man. There is a word for it. Is it player's manager? Like a manager of talent rather than a tactician. Ashley is ticked off. Sorry, I was hearing something in my backyard. Making sure it wasn't a raccoon. Let me know if there's a raccoon behind me. Sven also says he's losing faith. A lot of faith being lost today. We're all going to have to go to church. But then again, if he would just stop being so stubborn, try a new formation, Sven thinks things could be a little bit better. And he's feeling it. Poor Sven, our Danish friend. Harry Maguire in goal. The three at the back is not working, Ashley says. Goalkeeper, yeah. Is there still time in Mercato? Can someone look up? I'm reading, it's September 1st. When does the Mercato officially end? I need to know that. Maybe I can make a couple calls and see if I know any player who could help. Joe's here, and he says, errors from an error-prone player that Mourinho refuses to bench. Unfortunately, what is the alternative, Joe? Svilar, I don't know. Like, we don't see Svilar play. I don't even know anything about him. Seen him in, like, friendlies against some team from the Alps. So, the FSN. I'm a little dim when it comes to acronyms. Let me know what FSN is. Also, sarcasm. I don't always pick up on sarcasm. Can we really afford missing the Champions League again after selling youth and spending 15 on Lukaku? Ooh, we're going to dive into this. For 1 year, Mu took Pellegrini out of the penalty shot against Verona last year. Pelle responds, time to bench Rui. Can Roma afford missing out on the Champions League? If your ambitions are to become consistently in the Champions League and finish in the top four, then it is imperative that every year you make it because you need that money. You will rely on that money to fund said goals. To maintain fourth spot, you've got to spend. If Roma continues this way of loaning players in, signing free transfers, and taking risks on players who have big injuries, on players who are opportunities, let's call them, is that sustainable? I haven't seen that yet. Haven't seen that precedent set in football where that absolutely always works out. Could Roma do it? Maybe. Maybe they could. Let's see Roma finish 6th this year. I could see them finish 6th, to be honest, with the way things are right now. What does that mean long term? I think it definitely could signify that the club continues to sell youth. I don't agree with that. I think youth should be priority. We look at the players who are out there. Calafiori, he's moving his way up in Serie A. I think he just joined Bologna. Fratesi, Scamacca. The list goes on and on of players who are that Roma wish that they still had on their roster. So if Roma don't make the Champions League, it will continue to have the same mercato, the same types of deals, of transfers, which are loans, risks, and opportunities. So, and you don't really want to base your season on those things. Joe says Mu benched Casillas, but not Rui. The fans in Rome step up and demand a better style of play. I will tell you that the Ultras are very much on the side of Mourinho. I've never seen anything anti-Mourinho coming from Boys or Fedain. So, uh, what do we need to change? Why do things just feel so bad? 1 point in 3 games? Unacceptable, right? What needs to change? If I am the manager, since this is my show, I guess I'll answer that question. First, I would like to see Roma change tactics. I think it's time to step away from a 3-man back line. I think the team, even if they allowed a wing back to go up a bit more, would be more balanced by keeping 4 at the back. I think that the low block is not suiting them, especially with no true defensive midfielder. I think possession should be maintained in the middle of the field rather than allowing the opposition to move so far into Roma's half, into their defensive third. I would like to see a little bit more of like fluidity, some tactical movement, like give and goes, even just simple stuff, but stuff that gets 3 or 4 players as a quadrant, as a diamond, one guy here, and 2 guys on the side, moving together to try to manipulate numbers the way that Gasperini used to play. Doesn't totally play that way, but the way that he played with Gomez and Ilicic, who in my opinion were standout players. Ilicic was phenomenal, and Papu is one of my favorite players ever. I think you start there. But I think a low block without a true defensive midfielder is asking for Roma's problems to continue. That will allow the chance for there to be individual errors. They will persist as the ball continues to be played in dangerous areas without an answer. It does seem like Chris has perhaps lost a step defensively. That worries me. Should he be isolated so deep into the pitch now? I don't think so. I just don't think that the low block is benefiting Roma anymore. Would things be different if Roma did play that way? And I think so. I think that their personnel, the players that are on this team, lend more to it. I don't think this is a team which is 100% good at being a Mourinho type team. I don't think that these players totally jive that way. As we look at the newspapers, Forza Roma.info, Mourinho has decided to not speak in the conference after the match. So, altro disastro difensivo. I'll give you a little Italian lesson if you can't make that one out. Yeah, another defensive disaster. We've got a muscle injury for Awar from his flexor, hip flexor. So, and that's a good question there. This is probably not the right time to ask for optimistic, or I should say for big numbers. What vote do you give to the Mercato as it wraps up? I think that's a good question here, guys. But let's keep on moving. Spence says, good old Ranieri is the answer, who's doing pretty good at Cagliari. He got them back up from Serie B to Serie A, beating Bari in the playoff. Everyone seems so slow. Selic, Smalling, Spina, Belotti, so slow. And we're a counter-attacking team. And this kind of goes with what I'm saying, how the players don't seem to fit Mourinho ball. I think it's like trying to jam, there's an expression, trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. That's it, right? And I think that's what we're seeing, very much so. And you look at these players, and it's true. Roma's not fast. I think I said this on maybe with Martino Puccio and Matt Santangelo yesterday, or in the past couple days, I've been on a couple shows. But that the team is not really that fast. Like, I would rank them middle of the park, maybe even on the bottom half of speed. That's concerning. Solbakken is going to Olympiacos now. He's probably one of the faster players. He didn't adopt tactically to what Mourinho wanted. Out the door he goes. Who replaces him? I don't think anybody. Unfortunately, I think it's too late in the Mercato. Yikes. So, Okay. Did you see the highlights of the pen? What were your thoughts? I'm gonna watch them. I asked, and what I was told was that in the replay, it looked legit. In real time, it did not. I know the commentators on Rete Sport were really disappointed with the penalty there. But, if did have Roma fans in a chat telling me that it was legit once they saw the replay. Lucky not to let in 3 goals. Smalling, another bad match. Terrible. Lacked ideas, keep insisting on crossing instead of playing through the middle. That has driven me crazy for years. I think back to Di Francesco. The fact that Roma for eons now has looked for to play through its wingbacks who really aren't that great at crossing and try to jam it in there when the center forwards, like, it seems like they don't even practice it sometimes. I like playing through the center. I think it would probably fit this team more. El Shaarawy drags them out. Even if it's 40-yard long balls, like from the defensive midfielder over the top to Belotti, to Lukaku. But yeah, I totally feel you. But I also think, Ioannis, that it's a consequence of Roma going down so early. In that, what happens is these teams, they start to bunker in because now they've got a goal, they've got 2 goals. They don't need to spread their players out wide. So they clog the middle. And what happens is once they clog the middle, then Roma's only realistic options are to swing balls in from the flanks because there's nothing left. There's no space otherwise, unless you get your guys into tight spaces like Dybala, but that's also asking a lot of him when teams parking the bus. Hello, Rocco. He says everybody calm down. In other words, he says still early, new signings, injuries, bad bounces, some bad luck. We don't transition quick enough. We don't press the opponent. We don't get enough men in the box. It was driving me. I feel like I'm saying this a lot today. It was driving me crazy how in the last 20 minutes of the match, Roma were not pressing. I'm like, it's the 65th, 75th minute, and they're still chilling back. I'm like, what are you doing? What's the idea here? Like, I look at one of the center midfielders, and it was like Chukwueze, and they're chilling, and they're like, okay, like I guess I'll play it horizontally, like nobody's coming at me. Strange. Salik on the wrong side of Leao. Yeah, it's true. I mean, Leao scored best goal I've seen in a really long time, but I agree that he should have been goal side on him. Ball retention is 20 seconds, guys. Every 20 seconds we lose the ball. Not by mistake, though. I do think that the tactic is predicated based on that. Is like they look to hit quick, they look to counter. Just didn't work. That's the issue. Is when it doesn't work, you look ridiculous. The second half, there was a moment where 4 players were pressing a center back and just dodges them effortlessly because they were doing it so. And that's what made. Yeah, I remember that play in particular. He just like spun around them. Defenders are slow, Harsh says. Hard to see them in fourth. Seems that we play better with 4 at the back when we tried against small teams only because we outnumber the opponents in the midfield. Yes, I feel like I read in that book, Soccernomics, that sometimes the public is right. And we seem to have this unanimous opinion that Roma play better with 4 at the back. I think it's better. I don't know what Jose is waiting for. I know that a lot of people here are on my channel because of Jose. So tell me what you feel about that. Should Roma transition to the back 4 at this time, at this very time? Not like, the past 3 years. I'm talking right now. Should Roma start to play with the back 4? Leo thinks that with this group of players, Di Francesco would do better. I don't know. Di Francesco's where now? Monza, maybe? I saw him recently, and his team actually looked pretty good. This international break is what Roma needs. Couldn't agree more, Rocco. Thank you for that one. Lukaku, immediate presence on the field. Maybe his hold-up play with Dybala will be our magic this year. Yeah. And at the very start of this, I know this is kind of long. We're in 25 minutes now. At the start of this, I said that I wasn't like over the moon. I wasn't getting caught up in the hype of Lukaku. But now I see how he really does change Roma's top 2 and change their center forward. And I'm like, yo, this actually might be better, a lot better than I anticipated. So I am really happy I'm joyous to see Lukaku and what he could bring because of not only him on an individual level, but what he can do with Dybala, as Ben says, as he bullies defenders. He's got that physical presence, and he commands respect. 2, 3 guys might be marking him. And what does that do for the rest of the team? It opens up passing options, lanes, areas for the rest of the team to suddenly make dangerous situations out of. First half, defense spread its legs, just open up. Really, yeah. Joining late, how much do you think having a depleted squad is playing into these poor results? So it plays into it, but to me, the first half is unacceptable. I don't care if the Primavera plays. I don't care if the players from Lecce suddenly put on or a Serie B side, I should say, suddenly put on Roma colors. When you wear that jersey, it's unacceptable to me to get played out like that by Milan, by an opponent, by a historic rival, when you have a sellout for the 35th game in a row. Everything's behind you. You're fresh, bro. This is not a team which is playing 3 times a week yet. So for me, unacceptable. Yes, injuries are a reality, but at the same time, the way that you approach a match and your attitude, to me, was not good enough today. I look at this from, yes, a fan, but also a coach and a player, because I am all three. Coached for years. I played my whole life. I'm 33 years old. I played this game almost 30 years. And I know that when you step on the field and that happens to you, it's like you lose your you know what. And that, no, absolutely not, my friends. Rui should do the honest thing and declare himself injured. If I don't wanna go down that road. I don't think Mourinho has lost the dressing room. I think they fight for him. Till Mourinho combined these players to man time, we have always started the season suffering. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Wayne, for going live so fast. I think we all need this to fume. Yeah, it helps. It does help to process it, because otherwise, what is it? It's 5:40 on a Friday. Sets the tone. Sets an awful tone for the weekend. Like, hey, you know. But yeah, for us to be here and to talk about this, it's I do think it is a little bit therapeutic. So glad that some of us are appreciating it. Usually the break comes when we're gaining momentum, but now we're the worst in a decade. Agreed. At least that's a positive. At least the record is the worst in a decade. That's not something we can disagree on. That's fact. Could we have used Zaniolo? Nah. Hey, come on. No Zaniolo. Louis says the wingbacks taking turns to drop 0 to 10 games week after week. Doesn't it seem like that? Somebody mentioned, I think, maybe on Twitter, like, how come Spinazzola didn't start? Because he was doing terrible, because he had a poor game. And then Zalewski came on. Zalewski looked great. Zalewski starts this match. He doesn't look good. Spinazzola comes on. He looks great. 0 to 10, as our friend Mr. Hardwick, Louis, says here. 0 to 10. It's one or the other. One of the wingbacks is going to find some consistency. Somebody's got to step up and be the number one. Oi, VR Architects in the room. Kevin Tipper, maybe first-time commenter, I think. Nice Pitbull. Says they might not finish top 10. No pace, no aggression, can't string a pass together. Jose's last season. What happens to Jose after this year? Saudi Arabia? Maybe back to England. Maybe he takes a sabbatical. Maybe he's like, I'm good, bro. I've got like 100 mil in the bank. I really need to keep on doing this. I've won everything. I wonder. Leo agrees. Omar's here. Says, that's not how we need to play. We got to get it together fast. Rocco loves Mourinho, but small clubs in Serie A with smaller budgets and less talent are doing better. They push the opposition. They move quicker. They press. They possess more. Rocco's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. I think if we look at a team like Monza, perhaps, which would have taken the game to Milan a little bit more, you could say. This is something Roma's got to figure out quick. If Renato comes back soon, hopefully Renato and his injury issues, let's not even go down that road. Puts trust in that guy. I hope. Like to see him back ASAP. I like to think that with a starting 11, if Roma can get a starting 11, everybody fit with Dybala, Renato, Pellegrini, Lukaku, I think they're going to make other teams tremble. I don't think that on paper Would you take any other team, maybe besides Napoli, and say definitively Roma's best starting 11 is not as good? I don't know if I would go that. I think that with their best, and only with their best, Roma has a really good shot at beating any team in the league. Jose could at least speak to the media and give the fans a message. Agree, agree. No one dominated space. With formation, I think it's four. I think it's a 4-2-3-1, my friend. I think El Shaarawy actually becomes a starter, goes out on the left. On the right, I think that's an issue for discussion, whether that's Dybala or I actually like Dybala more central. I would like to see him behind Lukaku on the right, maybe even Zalewski. Get him further up the pitch, guys. Kid was a wingback in the Primavera, got much higher up even as a true winger. So I don't think that should be ruled out. Chris, bad form. Salik, yikes. Couple of weeks. Is De Gea available? Yeah, he's earning a little bit too much. I think that sounds a lot more like Saudi Arabia, if you ask me, when you speak of those, what do you call it, wages. We need some dynamism in the attacking midfield to play off Lukaku. That's Aouar, that's Renato Sanchez, and unfortunately, both are hurt right now. Yeah, Frosinone for Di Francesco. Yeah, good call. Thank you. And they looked so ridiculous. The first game of the season, they left so much space. Napoli blitzed them. But then the second game, they did really good. Scored a bunch of goals. Yeah. What about the other 13, Omar says? This is where a guy like Baldanzi can come in. And then there's another player I had my eye on recently. It's not Karnaseki. That's a keeper. There is a player, I think, on loan Inter, but it's like he's short. He takes really good little dribbles. He's like a number 10. What player am I thinking of? Baskeragi? Baskeragi. Serie A. Is that who I'm thinking of? Casaraghi? No, not Casaraghi. He's a legend. Pierluigi. Casaraghi. I will get you the name. But there are other players out there that I think Roma could look at to fill in those 13 games that Paulo does not play in. Because that statistic, while it might not be exactly that this season, is going to be relative. Lukaku looked better than expected. Yeah. Nagelsmann, interesting shout. Mourinho for the U.S. men's national team. I like that. A back four without a single winger. Shaarawy versus Leao. We have a three, but no number 10s, but no one with the quality of a flashy winger. I think that's a problem too. Weekend is spoiled. After following Jose for a long time, I believe he will alter the formation or players within the next 3 to 5 matches. The problem, the J says, is that we don't have players for a 4-2-3-1 or a 5-3-2. Maybe he goes 4-5-1, but then where does that leave Dybala? So my guess is that 3-4-2-1, and then that sounds just like last season. It's not Remeski. It's not Basket. Is it Basketotto? Basketotto. No, that's the defender from Lecce. No, it's a guy. It's a kid. It's like a 20-year-old out on loan. I think from Inter. I'll find you his name. Anyway, Rocco really wanted Fratesi, and but look, Rocco, you're talking about a 30-something million euro deal versus a player who was brought in for free. Shows you what Roma can and can't do. But I do agree with you. Roma maybe should have prioritized last year a little bit more to get him in. If Zaniolo tears it up at Aston Villa, how will I feel about it? Villa fans were losing their panties over his first 17 minutes off the bench. You know what? He made his bed. He's got to lie in it. So he could have done the right thing. Roma supported this player through a really big injury. And then he came back and made demands and acted, honestly, like a spoiled kid, is how I felt about Zaniolo. Dove Dybala? Where? I'm not sure what you mean. You're asking where Dybala? Oh, Dybala? He was injured. Hopium and excuse merchants. I don't like reading it. But I get it. I totally get it. All right, guys. The word is not out yet. I'm going to check the news. I'm going to check some Football Italia before we move on. We look at the starting 11. We know things have to get. We know things have to change. We see Amrabat actually went to Manchester United. Fiorentina are going to really miss him. That's for sure. I'm trying to see if there's any comments from any players, but Pioli did say only way Roma could trouble Milan was with the red card. Not wrong. Pioli's not wrong there, guys. Wait. Anything else? Nothing great right now. It looks like kind of like a media blackout coming from Roma at the moment. Yeah. Okay, we've got some stuff from Cristante. Let's see what Chris had to say. I'm going to translate this into English real quick using Google, which is brilliant. Joe asks, where do I see the team finishing in Serie A? Serie A, 6th. In Europa, hopefully in the final. Right now, I see them finishing 5th or 6th. Let's just hope we push Zalewski up and not ruin him like Florenzi. I'm hoping that too. How do I know it was all Zaniolo? Mourinho fully supported him during that drama, so maybe there was something wrong. Maybe. And I always like to remind myself too, like, we're fans. We don't have inside knowledge. And we're not in the locker room. We're not in boardrooms. We're not in meetings. We don't have these discussions with players. So what really happened, I don't know. And I guess to go back to your original question, it would make me feel a certain way. I would feel upset, yeah, if Zaniolo went and started dominating Teleradio Stereo. Yeah, I was expecting that. The stream for Rete Sport crashed, actually, in the second half, so I turned to Teleradio Stereo. Okay. I don't think the answer is 4-2-3-1 because we don't have the players for it. Fortunately true. Vijay is still positive. Thinks we'll come back stronger. Oh, man. Let's see what Cristante had to say. I'm going to bring you over to that report right now. Share screen. And after that, we're going to get on out of here. So one thing I'd like to ask you guys who've been with me for over a half hour now is, you know what to do. But on top of doing that, also, please send this to your Romisti pals. Send it on Reddit. Help me out there. I know some of you are on the AS Roma board for Reddit or general Serie A stuff or big soccer, whatever that might be, or you just got friends, or maybe your mom likes Roma. I don't know. Send it to everybody. Help the channel grow. Thank you. I'm going to start selling memberships sooner than later. And the idea is I want to raise money through this channel, not for me, but for the rest of the season. Leaning towards the New York Wolf Conservation Center. Roma are the wolves, so I was thinking that would be a good idea. But back to the ball. So here we go. Present, share my screen. Let's go and see what Cristante had to say. Speaks to the zone. Did you expect such a difficult start? He said, the episodes make the difference. In many games, we deserved to concede, and we didn't. Now, 8 shots conceded and 6 goals conceded. Now is the break to sort out ideas. In the second slot of matches, we absolutely have to score points. He's told, you lack brilliance. You guys don't shine. He said, it's the start of the season, but I don't see it that way. In the first 2, we created, but we were unlucky. Today, a little bit less. We could have done better. But many times, the episodes were filmed badly. What he means by that is, like, with the episodes, he means that the sequences, the passages of play, like, were not fair to Roma. He says, we had to do something more and score points. Yeah, obviously. Lukaku says he's world class, makes a difference. He's always done it, and he will do it with us too. Where do you like to play, Brian? He says, that's a question I get asked every time. In these 2 years, I've played more in front of the defense, and certain mechanisms are more automatic. But today, there was a need to play as a midfielder, and I tried to do it as much as possible. It was a difficult game because we didn't keep the ball that much. Was Mourinho angry? We're all angry. When you lose, no one is happy. I'm trying to avoid that little video on the side. But surprised by Matic says, yeah, we didn't know anything. The player wanted to leave, and he was satisfied with that. Weird. I didn't realize that the players didn't know anything. That's bizarre. How do you explain their start to the season? He says, a bit of bad luck. We should have done better. Now, after the break, we have to score points. Nothing to say. We just got to win. Yeah. Okay. And the guys, that brings us to the end of the show. So do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed, thanks for that. I'm going to wrap up a couple comments here. Last few. Cristante playing higher up with Matic and Paredes. It's different. Maybe a few weeks, and then we can see what's best. And then Alex says Roma got what they deserve. We were rather selling our best players and replacing them with injury-prone players. Mm. All right, guys, we'll be back. We're going to be doing a couple recordings throughout the break, talking, definitely previewing some matches, keeping it moving, some shorts. Pay attention to the page. It'll be active. Maybe I'll see you on Twitter or Instagram. And yeah, I guess we leave off on these ugly notes, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to really spin this as a positive right now. Why did you already cover injuries? So there's nothing out yet on Awar. Looks like something's wrong with his hip flexor, pulled muscle. Dybala, there's nothing yet. He was training with the team earlier in the week. There was optimism, but he's not there. Pellegrini looks okay. Zalewski is back from his concussion. Now is the international break. Roma go and look for answers. Will that be a tactical change? Will that be personnel? Or will there be some additions, some subtractions to the starting lineup? Will there be youth players, guys from the Primavera, who are introduced and used more than we could have anticipated? Will Eduardo Bove find the spot back with the club? It's a good time to go and rest up. Also for you guys too. Take it easy. Go enjoy the weekend, all right? Enjoy some other calcio or go out with your friends, your fam. Just enjoy, all right? We'll talk soon. Ciao.